And welcome back to the Clue Jets podcast. Heroes Ben Blessington and Michael Nania. Well, Michael, the Jets 2023 schedule dropped earlier this week. We've had a few days to formulate our opinions on it, and I would say the biggest takeaway is, man, the Jets are popular. 6 primetime games, including that Black Friday game against the Dolphins. What a difference a year makes now that the Jets have Aaron Rodgers. Only, what is it, 6 1 p.m. games?
6 1
6
p.m.
1
games
p.m.
as of right now.
Yeah, and the only one within the first 7 weeks of their season is against the Patriots. A lot of primetime opportunities for this team, a lot of late window games. Tough opening stretch, but, with Aaron Rodgers and with this defense, the schedule isn't as daunting as it used to be. I mean, even looking back at last year, I remember thinking how tough the opening of that 2022 schedule looked with, the Ravens, the Browns, Bengals, Packers, Broncos at the time were viewed as a juggernaut. And then, as the closer you get to the season, injuries happen during the season, things change. And you look at the difference between how the Jets season started last year and then how it finished, it was pretty much the inverse of what we thought when the schedule was announced. So there's not too much to be taken away from a schedule announcement back in May, but of course we're going to do it because what else is there to talk about? Michael, when you saw the schedule, what was your first reaction?
Well, the first thing is I think it's important to always remember what you just said is the fact that when you're looking at a schedule in May, it's always hard to see exactly where the hard stretches are and the easy stretches because so many things change. I mean, I remember last year when we looked at the schedule, and as you said, that AFC North gauntlet to start looked like a death sentence for the Jets season. And then they had the Broncos in there and the Packers, all these tough games. Then we were like, that end of the season with Detroit and Jacksonville and Seattle, that's when they're going to make their money and finish strong. And then look what happened. So schedules never align closely with the way it looks prior to the season. It makes no sense to use the previous season's records as an indication of, how good teams are going to be in the next season because injuries happen, teams get worse than expected, they're better than expected, so you never really know. So that's always important to keep in mind. But at the same time, there are some teams that you do feel pretty confident about being good, a select few. The Chiefs, this is all barring injuries, but the Chiefs, the Bills, the Eagles, teams like that are going to be good. So you do have some interest in seeing where those games fall. And the Jets do have some tough games at the start of the season. But the biggest thing is, I think, compared to previous seasons, there aren't really hard stretches in a schedule anymore when you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers at quarterback because he gives you a chance to win every single game. That's not to say that you will win every single game, but he gives you a chance to. There's never a stretch where it's like these 4 games right here, hopefully we can get 1 or 2 of them.
Right.
There's no more of that. It's just they can win every single game, and hopefully they come out on the right end of however many it takes to win the division, whatever that number may be. But the Jets can win any game on this schedule, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah, no, and I think the big takeaway of the Jets being primetime darlings, it's fun. I mean, how many 1 p.m. games have? Look, I love the classic 1 p.m. Sunday game. That's great for tailgating. You can build your schedule around it, but it is exciting that the Jets get to play this many primetime games, some home primetime games. They're back on Sunday Night Football for the first time in 12 years, and like you said, I mean, you don't want to judge things off of the last year's record, but if you do, the Jets' first 6 games is the toughest at any other team. And I guess we can break down the schedule. We'll cut it into pieces here and kind of give our thoughts on each game. And should we give a prediction at the end? I think we normally do, but we did just
We can
open.
do it. It's fun.
All
It's just
right.
for fun. It'll be different if we do it next week and the week after
All
that,
right,
but
fine.
that's what makes
Go
it
to,
entertaining.
all right.
Before this, we were listening to some of our 2020 episodes, and it's just funny to look back on how some of those opinions age. So it's always fun to just put some more opinions out there and go laugh at it in a year or two.
Well, yeah,
But
we were
a quick
saying.
point on the
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna make a quick point on the primetime games quickly since you were just talking about it. But the way I always look at the primetime games is it's a high risk, high reward opportunity. If you win a primetime game, everyone sees it and you get respect from everybody, and it's really cool. But if you lose, then it's the inverse of that, and everyone's laughing at you. And there's always a meme that comes out of a primetime game, so you're going to be the subject of that if you lose. So if the Jets have a great year this season, then it's going to be what I'm excited about is an opportunity to change the narrative about the team because the Jets are seen as a joke. That's just the reality of it. But if they can come out this year and win, have a successful season, but specifically win some of these primetime games, then that's a chance to, prove everyone wrong and do it in a way that's not just, look, we got Aaron Rodgers. We're expected to be good, but we're actually going to be good and win these big games against great teams. So it's a big opportunity, but with that opportunity comes risk. So you don't want to lose those primetime games as well. But that's what makes them exciting. It feels like even though they're not higher stakes games, they mean exactly the same as the rest of the games. It feels like they are just because of the attention that is placed on them.
All right, let's open up at the first 4 games of the season. Home against the Bills, Monday Night Football, September 11th. That is going to be one hell of a game. Really looking forward to that. Are you going to that? Are you planning on going? I know the tickets are like
I'm planning
Beyonce
to.
prices right
Got to
now.
keep an eye on those tickets. I guess Woody figured he could triple the prices before winning any games.
Well, apparently
but
they've sold like
that's
400
neither here nor
times.
there. But yeah, I guess people are paying anyway, so guess you can't blame the strategy there. And I'm gonna be one of them at some point.
Yeah, at some point. You're going to wait for the ticket. You're going to try to get the resale tickets. Is that what I'm hearing? I think we got to go,
Yeah,
Michael. We got to go. It's going to be electric.
we're gonna be there. We're gonna be in the house for sure.
Jets last
Well,
year.
right now we have a probable designation.
Yeah,
I
probably.
know they got
Didn't
rid
they?
of that a few
Yeah,
years
I
ago.
was about to say. Okay, so we're just questionable, but everybody knows we're probable.
Yeah,
Last year the
that
Jets splitting with the
pointless
Bills.
questionable tag. That's us.
Last year the Jets splitting with the Bills. They beat him with Zach Wilson, and then went up to Buffalo. And I mean, that game's coming up too, so we can break it down. We'll just focus on the home game against the Bills last year, which was probably the best moment of the season. I would say it's going to be a rowdy crowd. I would say. I'm sure the Bills will come. Some Bills fans will come down for the opener, but it's going to be a MetLife sellout. I'd say Monday Night Football. This Jets defensive line getting after Josh Allen, and I have to say we were talking about it before, and not to say that the Jets are for sure going to beat the Bills or the Chiefs or all these teams, but there really isn't a team in the AFC that scares me anymore with this defense and Aaron Rodgers. Again, Jets can beat anybody and they can lose to anybody, and Jets might get their ass kicked week 1, but with Aaron Rodgers and this defense, it's like go position group by position group. Look at this Jets team versus this Bills team, and I'm sorry, I don't think the Jets should be as big of an underdog as they are in this game. What was the line again? Was it? I have to look at it. I think it was like
Is it 3?
I think it was
I think it
3.
was 3 points.
Like, should the
Yeah.
Jets be home underdogs with Aaron? I mean, I think that line's going to change.
I guess I understand it because the Jets have to prove it first,
Three
and just the
points.
fact that they are as favored as they are for the Super Bowl and stuff is a nice sign of respect. I understand it. I think they have to prove it first,
How do you feel about
but
opening the season against the Bills?
I think before we might have talked about this on here, but I think I was hoping for more of a low key start to the season, like the Falcons, Texans, a home game, one of those softer home games to just get off on the right foot and not to overlook those teams. But we have Aaron Rodgers, so I think you should expect to beat those teams. But regardless, I was kind of hoping for that and then get into some of the big games. So to start with the Bills right away, which is a huge game because, I mean, at the end of the season, you expect these two teams to be neck and neck in that division title, and this game is going to mean a whole lot in the tiebreaker race. So very important game, primetime stakes to start right away. We're going to see what the Jets are made of as soon as the season starts, right off that opening kickoff. So, like I said, with primetime games, it's high stakes and there's a lot of risk to it, but there's also a lot of reward if you can win that type of game, especially in your own division.
I kind of want to go through each game and say win loss, but I feel like it'll get very convoluted. So we'll save the record predictions for the end of the pod. But what we can do,
Yeah.
Michael, very in line with this podcast uniform prediction. What are they going? Monday Night Football, prime time. So you're thinking black, but then it's like, all right, well they have quite a few home primetime games. Maybe they go all white in prime time. What are you thinking?
Well, they did in the promotional graphic for the game that the Twitter account put out as soon as they announced that game. It was all white uniforms, everyone in the graphic. So it could
All
be a
right,
little hint there.
Green
So
Sox or
I
White
will go with the
Sox?
all white prediction. And that is usually what they do or recently have done in the home openers. Each of the last 3 home openers, right, were all white.
Yeah, the
So
only one that wasn't
I'm
was
gonna.
the 2019 Bills.
None of them were night games, so that does throw a little wrench into things. But I will stick with the all white prediction.
All right, moving on. Week 2 at Dallas. I had a feeling once it wasn't on Thanksgiving, I was like, they're going to put Aaron Rodgers with the Cowboys early. It's essentially a primetime spot. I mean, a 425 CBS game. against Dallas. Jim Nance and Tony Romo going to be on the call. I mean, this is another primetime game. It's
And
Dallas's
that's
home
another
opener.
thing. The Jets got a bunch of those 425s too.
Yeah.
So in addition to the 6 prime time, only game on, type games that they have, Cowboys, Broncos, Eagles, Bills, all 425.
Yeah, how do you feel about? Do you prefer the 4:25 slot or the 1 p.m. slot? If you had to go for a daytime game, which one do you prefer?
I definitely like 1 p.m. better. 4 o'clock kind of bothers me. Like you're sitting through those other games. I mean, I guess you can enjoy those 1 o'clock games because you haven't played yet. Because if
Right.
you lose at 1 o'clock, then it kind of ruins the rest
That's
of them.
true.
And then also for us, like we do the podcast, so usually when the 1 o'clock is over, I don't even watch the 4 o'clock really. So that I guess is an advantage for the 4 o'clock. But I like 1 p.m. is already. I'm an early riser, so for me 1 p.m. is already fairly late in the day. So then to have to wait even longer for 4 o'clock is a little bit of a wait. So I kind of lean towards 1 o'clock, but there are advantages to both.
It is going to be Dallas's home opener, so I imagine that crowd is going to be pretty crazy. I've always wanted to go see a game at Jerry's World. Seems like this would be the year to do
I
it.
went there in
But
2015.
how
The
was it?
Jets' big time Saturday win against Kellen Clemens. It's a great stadium.
Wait, what?
It,
Kellen
it,
Moore. Kellen Moore. Come on now.
Kellen Moore, not
Jesus.
Kellen Clemens.
It's
Messing
like,
up my Kellens
it's like,
here.
were you like 7? Yeah. No, that was a great
No,
game.
it is a
Ken Burrell
great stadium though.
Tompkins.
It feels a lot different than any other stadium I've been in.
Ken Burrell
And I haven't
Tompkins
been to a ton, but yeah, Kembrell Tompkins had
saving the
that
day a few weeks
big
before he
play at the
became
end.
persona non
He
grata.
was the hero at that
Yeah.
moment, but zero a couple weeks
Jets
later.
Jets have had some good success against Dallas. I think they've won the last 3 matchups going back to 2011. That you were at that game as well, coincidentally
Yeah,
enough.
I said that one as well.
It's
Did
one
they win 2007?
No, they lost. They got I think
Yeah,
they
so
got blown out.
3 in a
I
row.
think that was like a Thanksgiving game too.
There were a lot of Jets fans there too when I went in Dallas, so that's a cool road game for any Jets fans looking for a road game to
God
pick.
damn, there's so many games. I kind of want to wait for the season to get underway, see how they're doing, because if this is a good season and the Jets somehow get a home playoff game, I'm going to want to go to that. And it's like, I only have so much money allocated for Jets tickets, and I don't want to blow it all in the first few weeks. But you look at some of these matchups, especially some that we're about to get to, it's like, oh, I want to go to that. But yeah, Jets Cowboys.
A lot of people in New York going broke this year.
Yeah, Jets
Because of the Jets.
Cowboys, 425. Jim Nance. Okay, what unis are they wearing in this one? Probably green on white.
Cowboys usually go white at home, right?
Yeah.
So probably green on white. It's gonna look weird. I think
so.
I don't think that's the best matchup.
They could go all green. I've seen a lot of all green on the promotional.
Which is what they did last time they were there, was green on white, but that was the hunter green. I think that was a little better than the current green, which they completely ignored last year, except the Lions game.
Wait. That's a kind of a hot take. You like the old green better than this green? In the Nike unis. The Reebok unis.
The jerseys, I think, look better. The current color is better, I think. I just like it's pops a little bit more, but it just doesn't look right in the jersey sometimes. So I don't know.
Let's wait until they win some games with Aaron Rodgers in these unis, and then we can see how you feel about them. Because that's been my long held theory, is that the unis are only as good as the team.
Do you think this is a theory I proposed to you? You didn't answer it.
I think this entire podcast is going to be unis.
That's what it's shaping up to be. But what about this? Do you think maybe Rodgers has some pull in the room in terms of the jersey preferences?
I didn't answer that. I didn't answer that for a reason. Sorry.
Because it was that preposterous.
Yeah, get out your whole opinion. My bad. I cut you off. What were you saying? Okay.
No, that was my question. Do you think he has some, I don't know, because maybe he doesn't like the black uniforms because he wore green and green.
When you sent me that, I was like, Michael needs to go outside. He's bored. What if Rodgers doesn't like the black unis? You think they won't wear? It's like, I don't think they really. Maybe he has some pull, but no. Come on. Week 3. This is a game I can promise I will not be going to. Jets Pats in New York. I've been to. I think I'm trying to remember how many Jets Pats games I've been to, and they haven't beat them a single time. I think I went 2016.
At least the last 3, or not last 3, but
no.
Yeah, the last 3
Let me go through
it.
They beat. Okay. I went 2016 with Fitzpatrick. They were up 10 in the fourth, and they blew it. Then I didn't go to a game for a few years. I went to the Seeing Ghost game in 2019. Got blown out. Embarrassing. Then I went to Zach Wilson's home opener where he, again, had a Seeing Ghost game. And then last year I went to the game against the Pats where the John Franklin Myers roughing the passer. So I'm pretty confident I'm not going to go to any more Pats games for a while. I feel like I'm a bad luck charm. I won't be going to that. But the Jets have lost the Pats 12 straight times. They need to win this fucking game, especially early on with this type of gauntlet. I mean, as we said, you don't really know how these teams will shape up. Maybe the Jets are 2-0 walking into this game, but they need that early season win against the Pats. Get the monkey off the back, beat the brakes off of Bill Belichick and the shitty Pats team. Let them know that they're at the bottom of the division. I'm really looking forward to that game, but I'm pretty confident I won't be going to it. What unis are they
I
on this
also
one?
went to the last two Pats games, so won't be going to this one.
What unis are they going with this one? I'm getting the full uni prediction, by the way. I'm writing it down. Unless
Will
you know,
this
unless
be
we really
another-
want to plan it out a little bit better.
Or we could do alongside the win-loss predictions. We could do that.
Okay, well
Or should we
that'll
keep
get
doing them
convoluted.
now?
I think we do them now.
All right, let's keep
because they're
doing them
casual.
now then. I think we'll get another white on white.
Yeah. All right. Then this game I'm really looking forward to. Jets return to Sunday Night Football, hosting Patrick Mahomes October 1st. This is gonna be a fun game. I don't think Rodgers and Mahomes ever played each other. I could be mistaken, but I think Rodgers was
No, the
injured.
2 times they played, one of them was injured. Yeah.
This could be a fun game. And like you said, I mean, we don't know how the season will shape out, but if the Jets are having the type of season that we think they might have, this could be very important when it comes to playoff seeding. Especially if the Jets are able to win their division, you would imagine the Chiefs are going to win their division. This could be a really, really important game early on. And who knows? I mean, we'll see how fast the Jets come out of the gates. I mean, it certainly helps that Rodgers has experience in the system, and there's a lot of guys carrying over. And then you look at the defense, returning 9 of their 12 starters. You hope the Jets can hit the ground running fast. It's possible, like Tom Brady with the Bucs, that they falter a little bit out of the gate and then get that early bye and get to reset. But if the Jets come out of the gates hot, this is gonna be a really fun game. It's another game I really want to go to see Mahomes versus Rodgers Sunday Night Football. But maybe it's worth it just to stay home and get to take in the Carrie Underwood and the whole. I guess Al Michaels isn't on NBC anymore, so maybe it's not the same. But
That's the thing. A lot of the primetime vibes you get the best when you're at home. And you could kind of see the broadcast and like all the spectacle with it. I mean, you do feel it when you're there.
yeah, and you don't have to drive home at midnight. I told you after the Seeing Ghost game.
That is a big part of it.
After the Seeing Ghost game, I left in like the fourth quarter. It was like 11:30, something like that. I had to drive 4.5 hours back to Syracuse, middle of the night. Worst experience. I was like falling asleep on the freeway. It was not good. So I agree. I think the home primetime games are probably best taken in on TV. But I got to go to that home.
That's not fun. I mean, I used to live like an hour and a half north of the stadium when I lived in New York when I was younger. And I went to a bunch of primetime games, 2011, 2012. And, you get home pretty late after those games, especially for a kid who had to go to school on Monday. So definitely there's a lateness aspect to that. But uniform prediction for the Chiefs, because that's what matters more than Rodgers versus Mahomes. All black here, I think, is definitely going to be the play.
Week 5 at Denver. And this is kind of a sneaky tough game for the Jets because I think based off of last year and how bad the Broncos were, people are automatically chalking this up as a dub. But is it the most the Jets have to travel? I mean, the Cowboys, I don't know. I think Denver's further, yeah. Oh, Jesus, I forgot about that. Come on now. That is another
travel. That's another big thing in this schedule.
Yeah. And I saw Samini had that point too, where the Jets have, I think it was like the second best travel differential. Like they never face a team coming off of a bye. So pretty much in every game, the Jets should have the rest advantage. And like you said, not a lot of
travel and rest. I think it was plus 12 days in terms of rest differential. And then the travel miles, I think they have the 7th fewest. And in terms of time zones, they only cross time zones 12 times. That was 2nd fewest. And all that comes in only 3 games. The Raiders, Cowboys, and Broncos. So they got a lot of favorable stuff on this schedule in terms of rest and traveling.
I think the Broncos do have the advantage against the Jets. They lead the series 22-17. There are some really horrible moments when I think back at trips to Denver, and the one that really stands out is that Tebow game on Thursday. Do you remember that game? That was like you were still kind of young.
Yeah,
man,
that was one I remember.
But then the year before that, they beat them, and it was a fun, dramatic game. And then last year, with Sauce, maybe with the defensive PI, but closing out that game. But then you think about the injuries that the Jets faced, against Denver. That really wasn't a fun game when you think about it. So let's just hope they can make it out of that one alive, honestly.
Denver's not been kind to the Jets.
No, not at all.
Even when they won last year, finally ended a streak of ugly losses there. It still cost them more than it helped them.
Oh yeah, so I just
So,
looked it up. I forgot they got blown. They've been shut out twice in Denver. Three times so they got shut out 27 to nothing in 2005. They got shut out in 2017 23 to nothing with Josh McCown and his did he break his hand or something in that game? I just remember him crying in the post game press conference with the cast. And then 2021 26 to nothing with Zach Wilson. So yeah, some tough games in Denver. It is Nathaniel Hackett's revenge game, so maybe he
yeah.
schemes up some magic, but we'll see how Sean Payton and Russell Wilson look. I do kind of feel like Russell Wilson will have a bit of a bounce back. I don't think he'll be amazing or anything, but I think he'll probably even out a bit. So that's sneaky tough game, but definitely the easiest out of the first 6 games because the next week I think is the toughest game of the Jets schedule. I guess that's not too controversial considering they were in the Super Bowl last year, but the Eagles, and this is how I look at every game on the schedule. It's the trenches. I mean, for the Jets, yes, they have. You want to look at the quarterback matchups, and yes, you want to look at the receiver versus corner matchups. That's exciting, but for the Jets, it's really going to come down to can they win with rushing four. And there aren't many teams that I think will be able to stop this Jets defensive line and this pass rush, but the Eagles might be one of them. They really win in the trenches, and they're a super talented team. That is a really tough game for the Jets, but another 425 game on Fox. What do you think about that one? I mean, I think that's the toughest game on the Jets schedule. Do you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I think there's a case for that because we talked about this last year ahead of the schedule, and I think it still applies now that I think the Jets' kryptonite is more so teams that have trenches talent more so than skill position talent because that's where the weakness of the Jets is right now offensively. We're talking more so than defense. I think there's a strength in that D line, but we know the O line is probably the biggest question with the team right now. And, they have linebacker questions, safety questions, but O line is a lot more premium, directly related to the quarterback. So teams that can get after the quarterback, that's who you're really afraid of, especially considering, Rodgers and his age. And he's been mostly durable, but he has had some seasons where he's missed games. So you worry about that too. So it's teams that can get after the quarterback that scare you the most. And that's why I think they can contend with teams like the Bills, like the Chiefs, like the Bengals. Those are outstanding football teams, but getting after the quarterback isn't at the core of what they do great. But you look at teams like the Eagles and the Cowboys, the Chargers have a great pass rush duo in there. And the Browns, who just added Zadarius Smith, those are the teams that you worry about. Unless the Jets offensive line can stay healthy and prove itself as a great unit. But until then, it's the teams that can get after the quarterback that I think worry you the most.
This is a tough one. What uni matchup looks good when two green teams play
Oh,
each
did we
other?
say Denver yet?
We did not. I forgot about it, but
I think white on black returns.
yeah. Okay. I don't know.
Do you think that'll be the road primary this year? Or was
Yeah.
that just like riding the superstition?
I think they're gonna mix it in a good bit, but they have some. I think they're gonna go wide on green. I don't think you really want to. As much I know the Jets beat Denver last year, but now that I think about it, that really wasn't a good road trip for them, considering they lost AVT and Brees, and
That's
then Corey
true.
Davis was out for a few years. So I
I'll
think
change my prediction. I'll go white on green for that.
with the Eagles though, it's tough. You have two green teams. I mean, I think when they played at MetLife in 2021, Eagles were white on black and the Jets were black on black. I don't know. That's a tough one. Tough one to call. I don't really know. I guess green on white.
I'm gonna say white on black at
Wow.
home. What do you think of
Oh,
that?
that's an interesting call. Okay, white on black at home. Yeah, they probably will mix that in a few times. That's a good call. The week 7 bye, maybe a little bit earlier than you would want. I mean, typically you kind of want the bye around week 10, week 11. Let your team get that week of rest before heading into the November, December games. But for a team with the new quarterback and a lot of new pieces, I don't really hate it being week 7, especially when you look at the gauntlet that they have to open up with. I kind of like the bye here. And then when you factor in all the rest days that the Jets have, and they have that primetime game, or they have that Amazon Prime game, which will give them, considerable rest before week 13, and they have a late season Thursday night football game, which should give them rest before the playoffs. So I think their breaks are pretty evenly spaced. I kind of like the bye here, and as I said earlier, if things really aren't kind of clicking the way that you want on offense, maybe the offensive line is struggling, maybe the Jets have faced a few injuries early on. whatever it is, I kind of like the week 7 bye. What do you think about that? And what uni are they going to wear?
Yeah, I don't really mind the early bye. I think, generally you would like to have it right in the middle of the season, like week 9, 10, 11, somewhere in there. But I think, like you said, there's something to be said for an early bye week potentially being beneficial for this team because this is a tough early stretch. It's, a team that's gone through some big changes and could struggle a little bit out of the gate. And I don't say struggle like they're going to be 1-5 or anything, but maybe they'll be 3-3 or 4-2, not scoring
4 and
as
2.
high octane
Four
as
and
they
two
would
is
have liked.
struggling.
What?
If they're 4 and 2, I don't think that's struggling when you look at these 6 games. I mean, I know we said
Well, I'm saying struggling in the sense that, maybe it's not like firing on all cylinders. So I'm
okay.
an early bye week, you can, reconvene and come back. What's working, what's not working, and then really go on a run for the rest of the season. Versus, if you had later bye week and you weren't playing up to your standards, then maybe your end of season surge wouldn't be as long. I don't know. I'm just looking for reasons to like the early bye week. There was something to be said for it. The Chiefs were week 8 last year and they won the Super Bowl. So it doesn't, it's not the worst thing in the world.
I think this is a good time to take a break, look at these first 6 games. I know we just kind of gave some record predictions. We've said I think the Eagles game is the hardest. I think the Pats game is probably the easiest, just considering it's at home and they're probably the worst team out of the 6. Because I do think the Broncos will be slightly better. When you look at these first 6 games, though, is it as daunting, you know, as it seems? I mean, you had that brilliant tweet this week where it's like the Jets got Aaron Rodgers. They're no longer a team that other fan bases will look on in the schedule and mark as a W. I mean, the Jets are the daunting team for a lot of these teams, even good teams. They're a tough matchup. I mean, I don't think Bills fans wanted to open up on the road Monday Night Football against this Jets team. I mean, I don't. Maybe they're a little cocky bunch, so maybe not. But when you look
I
at these,
did actually see a Bills fan tweet recently that predicted that game as a loss, which is something you'd never see. An AFC
they
East
did lose
fan
to Zach
predicting a
Wilson.
Jets loss.
They did lose to Zach Wilson on the road. I mean, Robert Saleh had Josh Allen in hell. So if it's anything like it was last year, and this defense is containing Josh Allen like it did last year, and we'll get to the second Bills matchup in a second. I mean, they could run through this Buffalo team if the offense is. I mean, with Aaron Rodgers in this defense, it's hard to predict. You don't know with injuries, with regression, but this first 6 weeks, are you happy with it? Are you happy that the Jets kind of test themselves early, get to prove themselves? Like you said, it's that high risk, high reward, not just prime time, but with facing these good teams. The Jets do come out and they're 5-1, 4-2, hell, even 6-0. You put the league on notice. The Super Bowl bets start flooding in. I mean, how do you feel about these first 6 weeks? Because this is the chunk of the schedule I've seen the most talked about in terms of fans kind of bemoaning the fact that they have to play all these tough teams so early on.
I mean, it's definitely a challenge, and I think more so than that, it definitely is noteworthy that there are some very important tiebreaker games in the middle here. Like we said, Bills and Chiefs, that could absolutely come into play at the end of the year, and the Jets have to get them within the first 4 games while they're still kind of finding their identity and growing as a team. So it's going to affect the final picture, even though the team, when you play those games, maybe isn't the final product that they are in week 18 when the playoffs roll around. So I wouldn't have preferred this if I were building my ideal schedule, but again, I just come back to the fact that these are not the Jets of old. It doesn't have to be a season-long gauntlet where you're developing and figuring things out. They have Aaron Rodgers. They have the talent around him to win every game. So go win some games. And I think record-wise, if you can, I think 4-2 is the minimum you'd like going into that bye. 3-3, I mean,
The minimum.
they could.
4-2 is the
I
minimum.
think so.
The minimum.
I mean, 3-3 isn't impossible to come out of, but if they lose
What are you
3
saying?
games there, what do you think that's too high?
No, I would say the minimum is not 4-2. I mean, the Jets could go 2-4. Look at how the Bucs started with Brady the year they won the Super Bowl. It's like the Jets. I would say the minimum is 2-4. I mean, obviously we wouldn't be happy about it, but the minimum is 2-4. If they're 2-4 going into the
You
bye,
can't say 2-4. 3-3, I'd understand.
I'm not saying that that's what I think will happen or want to happen, but they could come back from 2-4. I think we kind of, as always, kind of overestimate the first 6-8 weeks of the
That's
season
true.
because that's
All
all
right,
you
3 and
have.
3 is acceptable.
But think
3-3
about
is
just
acceptable. I do like the Niners were, what were they last year? 3-4. It does happen a lot where these
which
teams start
okay, but they could start
really
two and
good teams
four,
are like 3-2, 3-3, and they win 10 in a row. So,
right?
and this is the type of team that could now win like 9, 10 games in a
Right,
row. So,
especially
all
as
right,
they
3-3
gel.
is okay. I shouldn't have said 4-2, but 2-4, I would be very concerned about.
Well, we could be concerned about it, but it's not like they can't come back from it. 1-5 is the point where I'd say, "Oof, man." I mean, they'd really
Two
need.
and four though.
They could come back from 2-4. Yeah, you're telling me they couldn't beat the Giants coming out of the
Has any
bye?
team come out of 2-4 and
Yes.
got to where we want this team to get? Not just the playoffs, but division competition.
Maybe not win the division, but I'm sure they're a team. I think the Giants, when they went to the playoffs and won the Super Bowl, they did not start the season too well. I might be talking out of my ass here. Let me look. But you could start 2-4, beat the Giants. Now you're 3-4. Hey, you beat the Chargers on Monday Night Football. Now you're 4-4. You're back to 500. You go and beat the Raiders. Now you're 5-4. It's like we overestimate the early season games. You kind of forget how many games there are in a season.
Right.
Even going back to last year. I mean, I remember thinking, okay, the Jets need to go 4-2 down the stretch with these last 6 games that they want to make the playoffs. And then they kept losing, and it got to the point where the Jets still could have made the playoffs if Mike White could have beaten the
Just
Seahawks.
won the last two. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So we overestimate how important these early games are and how many games there are in general. They could come back from 2-4. I'd be concerned, but when you're playing the Bills, it depends how these losses look.
You can't tell me you wouldn't be panicking if they were 2-4.
I wouldn't be panicking, but I wouldn't be happy
With
Dude,
this team.
With my history
Last
on this
year's team was
podcast, you think
4-2.
I'm the optimist of this podcast, Michael. You think I'd cave at 2-4? It depends how the games look. If they lose a close one to the Bills and a close one to the Chiefs, and they lose to the Eagles, and I don't know, and they beat the Pats and Broncos. I mean,
I dropped down to 3-3. You got me there, but 2-4, I'd be in a bad headspace.
I'm sure you would be. I'm sure you would be. You text me if they give up a first down in the first quarter, and you're just like, I hate this fucking team. This game's over. I will not be accepting any of those texts. I'm going to block you during game days from now on. I just want the good vibes. They come out of the bye.
I'm going to try.
They come out of the bye with the pseudo road game against the Giants at MetLife. What do you think the split between Jets and Giants fans is going to be at this game? Kind of bummed it's not prime time, but you made a good point as to
maybe
why.
like 70% Giants.
Probably.
Do you think it'll be closer than that?
No, I think that makes sense. I mean, if the Giants weren't good, I would think the Jets could maybe
Giants
take over.
fill up pretty well. I think to be honest, I think they feel better than the Jets do.
Yeah, they do.
And they're the home team. So
70-30 is probably fair. You made a good, because I wanted this game to be prime time. In fact, I kind of wanted them to open the season on Monday Night Football against the Giants. But like you said, it's only one media market, so it kind of makes sense why it's not prime time. But in terms of the matchup, this is a fascinating game for the Jets. Really well-coached team, tough team. We'll see if they do the joint practices with the Giants in preseason. They do still have their preseason game against them. They did not get the preseason game against the Eagles. I know we didn't touch on any preseason, but Hall of Fame game against the Browns. At Carolina, you'll probably go to that. Home against the Bucks, which it sounds like they're going to be doing some joint practices with the Bucks. So maybe Todd Bowles still has some fans in this building, and then at the Giants for preseason. Quickly, what did you think of the preseason schedule? Is it an advantage or a disadvantage to have that extra preseason game?
I would say advantage, just to have the extra, opportunity to watch some tape of these guys. I mean, I guess it adds a little bit extra injury risk, but the guys who are playing in that game that game is probably even more so than the final preseason game, just focusing on the bottom of the roster.
More Zach Wilson reps.
Zach Wilson will get some reps, so
preseason's going to be fun just for that. Preseason's going to be more fun.
It'll be a ride for sure.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, but it'll be something to watch. It's not like, who are some guys that have played quarterback for us in the preseason?
I was gonna say Mike White, and then I realized he actually ended up having a pretty interesting career here. Bryce Petty, Hackenberg,
Matt Sims.
Yeah, I think compared to most teams' backup quarterbacks, the Zach Wilson preseason storyline is going to be fun to watch. So let's see how he looks.
And it's important too. I mean, this is our backup quarterback. We want to see him.
That's true.
Prove that he can be ready if he's needed.
His first preseason was pretty damn good, honestly. Last year, not so much. Yeah. Throws the pick six and gets injured. How much different would things have been if that was a torn ACL? Would the Jets have made the playoffs? Because they probably would have traded for Jimmy G. mean, maybe not, but
Wow.
maybe
I mean,
think back of how depressed we were at that moment. But you think about it, if he had torn his ACL against the Eagles and was out for the season, then it's like, do they even go in on Rodgers? Who knows what happened? The butterfly effect of that not being an ACL is fascinating. Maybe
it's a lot of
that's a
ramifications. I
Jets
think
X
you're
Factor
right. They
article right
probably would
there.
have traded for Jimmy G. I think that would have happened, and then they probably win another 2 games if he stays healthy. There's no guarantee he stays
That's
healthy
true.
though. That's part of it. I don't know. I feel like they maybe be about the same.
But you'd still have
I don't know.
people who are really bought into Zach Wilson being the starter this year. So he'd probably be competing for the starting
Right.
gig. And
That's true. That's probably what it is. Yeah, I didn't think of that because regardless of how the season goes, then he'd probably be guaranteed to start this year. Basically, like Trey Lance, because he didn't play, so he didn't
exactly.
play himself out of it. So
God,
there'd be no Rodgers right now.
God, that's the next Jets X Factor article I want to
And we
write.
just have last season would be next season.
I like the butterfly. I think I've made this point to you before we started recording, but you could really make the argument that Adam Gase saved the Jets. Because without Adam Gase, you don't have Joe Douglas, and without Joe Douglas, none of this happens. And it really did take Adam Gase did have to put his neck on the line to go behind the guy who just hired him a few months before, go to the owner, and really just point out, hey, this guy has no idea what he's doing. This building is toxic. You need to clean house. Hey, I know a guy who would make a hell of a general manager. I mean, just think about it. I know. Look, he was a terrible head coach, but he deserves some credit if the Jets really go and win this thing. Without Adam Gase,
That's
the Jets
true.
don't bottom out. You don't get solid. I mean, all right, let's keep moving. We're getting off topic. Then another primetime game, Monday Night Football, hosting the Chargers. That's a fun game. LA, New York. A lot of primetime, a lot of good memories from when I was younger of the Jets and Chargers playing each other. I mean, it kind of seems like, these are the AFC, New York versus LA. It seems like these teams should be playing each other more often. The Chargers are another team that I feel like definitely underachieved last year, but it's a damn good team. And it wouldn't surprise me if they are really pushing the Chiefs in that division. That's going to be a tough game, but they do have to make that big travel across the country. I always feel like it's as hard as it is for either team, going east to west versus west to east. I think it's probably harder for a team to go west to east. Do you agree? Is there an argument to be made there?
So how would this work time wise? Is this a
It'd be
5 o'clock
it'd be
game to them or an 11
a
o'clock
5 o'clock
game?
game for them.
5.
Jesus,
Right.
really? Come on, you knew that.
I thought I was the analytics guy in the podcast.
Yeah, we can't. We can't.
Is it though? Is it 5
Yeah,
o'clock? So
it's 3 hours behind.
they're 3 hours.
Come on
I
now.
know they're 3 hours
The
behind. I'm
sun
just trying
rises
to.
in the east and sets in the west. Come on, we know this. We've been over
Okay,
this.
I apologize. Too much uniform talk.
Yeah, it's
I've
true.
lost my math capabilities. I'm more of a fashion analyst
Yeah,
now.
exactly. If the
Um,
Jets, I have a question for you. If the Jets bring back a retro jersey, which there's been some rumblings they might, let's say they bring it back for one game. Which game do you wear it? There's a good argument for this
that's a
one.
good question. Well, the discussion you and I were having was, do they do it on the Black Friday game against Miami? Because the first thing you think of
No, come
is
on, you got to wear
this
the.
is obvious. You have to go all black on
Yeah,
Black Friday.
yeah,
It's
definitely.
right there. It's a low hanging
It's
fruit.
happening.
But I mean, like Jets Dolphins, that's the most classic rivalry I feel like for the Jets. It's a national game. It's a quote unquote historic game because it's the first Black Friday game. Maybe they want to go back to their history while doing that. So I would not rule out that Dolphins game if that's where they put it.
Come on
If
now.
they do it.
You think they're not going to wear black on Black Friday?
I know, and I don't want to pass up on that, but there's also a lot of reasons to like the throwback there.
Ugh,
It could be one of those random late games like Falcons or Texans.
meh. What do you think
Maybe
about
the
what
Christmas
do you
Eve
think about
game.
the matchup though of the Chargers and Jets? I haven't heard a lot of people break down this one. I think this is a sneaky tough game for the Jets because the Chargers on paper are incredibly talented. Justin Herbert is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I know Staley kind of blew their playoff game a bit, but he is still a smart head coach. I mean, schematically, I mean, I know we said we'll focus on the trenches, but they do have some pass rushers that could really wreak havoc if especially at this point in the season, if the offensive line isn't as healthy. What do you think about this matchup for the Jets? Are you on paper and on May 14th? How do you feel about this November 6th game?
I mean, we talked about Trench's talent, and the Chargers have some of it. Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack is on paper as good as it gets on the edge. It's just they've had some injury questions, especially with Bosa. Then offensively, their O line has talent, but they've had injury questions on that O line. So that's the thing with the Chargers. I think every year they have a really, really good roster that could legitimately compete, but injuries just get the best of them every year. So we'll see how healthy they are at this point. I think that's the biggest question. If they are, I think there's no reason the Chargers can't be in that conversation with the rest of this conference. But uh, every year just seems to bite them like the Jets do. So we'll see.
After that, back-to-back primetime games. Week 10, we'll see if it stays a primetime game. I think this is the only primetime game that could be flexed out of its spot. But Week 10 at the Raiders, I think this is a game I really want to go to. Out of all the road games, as much as I want to see one in Jerry's World, I think going to Vegas and seeing a game at that stadium, Sunday Night Football, if it stays that way, a team the Jets should play well against, should beat. You got the Adams-Rodgers storyline. What do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, this was one of the ones I thought was a dark horse primetime candidate, and it did turn out to be one. Uh, I mean, this is a game the Jets should win. Again, on May 13th, 14th here, we have no idea how the season's going to play out, but I don't think the Raiders are going to be very good. I'm not a Garoppolo fan.
Who's their
I
backup?
don't think the roster is too good. Brian Hoyer.
Oh,
Uh,
all right. Well,
got the Josh McDaniels coaching tree going on there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Raiders' defense was bad last year. They didn't really add too much to it to change it. Obviously, Devontae is going to be fun. See him against Sauce, but I don't think the Raiders are very good. They should win this, but it'll be fun to see them in Vegas on primetime.
Here's my bold prediction on May 14th. This game does not stay on primetime. I think it gets flexed out.
That could definitely happen. I mean, let's look at some of the other games in that, at that week of the season. But yeah, this is within the flex window. It's Sunday night. It's not Monday or Thursday, so it could change.
I just don't. I
be surprised.
I don't think the Raiders are going to be very good this season. Yeah, okay. There's kind of the storyline of Rodgers and Adams, but it's not like they're on the field against each other. And I think he already has a primetime game. The Raiders already have a primetime game against the Packers. I guess Garoppolo knows Salah, and I don't really see the storyline.
There's Rodgers, the potential interest of the Raiders maybe trying.
I guess
to
that's
him.
true. I just don't see this staying a primetime game. I think at this point of the season, the Jets will be. Well, it's hard to predict. I think at this point of the season, these two teams will be in different spots. I don't think the Raiders are going to be very good this year. So I just think that'll get flexed out. Is there anything else in Week 10 that jumps out as something that should be flexed in quickly?
We got Niners, Jaguars, Browns, Ravens, Giants, Cowboys, Lions, Chargers.
All right. So there's some matchups there. I mean, the Jets and Raiders have had some pretty historic games. In fact, you mentioned we were listening to some of those old 2020 pods just for fun, and we listened to the one after they gave up that touchdown to what we thought would help them secure Trevor Lawrence in 2020. And I got to say, Michael's reaction to that is maybe my favorite moment in our podcast history, especially with knowing after the fact 2 weeks later we have that podcast where we're just depressed and like don't say anything for the first.
We listened to them back to back, and it's just like euphoria to like depression.
Again,
straight from one to the other.
And there's the Heidi game. I mean, the Raiders lead this series 26-20. And won the last matchup. Although in 2019 the Jets had blown them out. I'm trying to think, when was the last time? This is the first time the Jets will play in Vegas. Please, for the love of God, keep them. Get them in bed curfew. No, we don't need any mid-season Vegas incidents.
Oh, that was Oakland, team. But I meant at Raiders. But I agree with you. Yes.
All right. Well, after that, I think this is the toughest in terms of travel schedule to go back-to-back primetime. You're playing on Sunday Night Football, and then you got to go, which is already kind of a short week. Then you got to go to Buffalo and play at Buffalo November 19th. Going to be shitty weather, but, better than playing them in December, I guess. November 19th, another late game, 4:25. I got to say, I do like the late window East Coast games because they kind of feel like primetime games regardless. Against the Bills. And as I was
I love the feel of that game last year they played there. Because, Nance was calling in and Romo, and it felt like the Jets had kind of earned that spotlight by that point of the season.
And hey, I mean, if Mosley and Flacco didn't give that game away, the Jets might have swept the Bills last year. I mean...
Yeah, that second game, too. Like, people forget how tightly the Jets played them. If it weren't for that, like you said, that fourth down penalty by Mosley, and
Or
then Joe Flacco just
Mike White
throwing the game away.
Getting folded in
Three
half.
plays. Then Jets easily, and then they were driving at the end, and they could have tied the game, and Michael Carter fumbled it.
Oh,
So
I
they were
forgot
only a
about
few
that.
plays away from potentially winning that
Yeah,
game.
they really should have swept the Bills. Honestly, now that I think about it. All right, that's it. The Jets are winning the division. Well, if they want to win the division, it's gonna be a big game to do it. Week 12, Dolphins, first ever Black Friday game. Yes, they're gonna come on. They're wearing the black unis on Black Friday. Come on now. 3 p.m. Do you like the 3 p.m. slot? I've seen some people kind of complain, wish this was a night game. It's gonna be
I don't
it's gonna
mind
be
it. It's just
hell
weird.
on Black Friday. The parking between MetLife traffic and then the mall. It's right across the street.
I will not be going to this
Yeah,
game because I have to
you
go
can take the train in.
from where I am, so I got to fly. So I don't want to fly on Thanksgiving weekend.
That's true.
So we'll not be dealing with those problems. But I mean, there's not another game scheduled on Black Friday, right?
No,
Because I thought
the
when I saw they were at 3, like, okay, there'll be a night game. So it is a weird time.
3. I mean, but it should be post Thanksgiving on a holiday. That does seem like a good time. I mean, I think a lot of people probably go out Friday night of Thanksgiving, so putting it kind of in the afternoon, a lot of people should be a lot of eyes on this game. I did see the report that the Bengals requested they want it to be like how the Cowboys and Lions are on Thanksgiving every single year. They want it to be that for Black Friday. They want it to be the Black Friday team, and the NFL told the NFL told the Bengals that they don't care, and they put the Jets and Dolphins on that. I love that. It's a good matchup. It's a fun matchup. The Jets again split them. It's the only Jets game I've ever seen them win in person. Was with you last year. That was a really fun game. Although it was against Skylar Thompson, I have a feeling this is going to be Mike White. I have a feeling it's going to be
Yeah,
Mike White against the
there's a
Jets.
good chance. And it would be a great storyline, the revenge game. A lot of parallels to Chad Pennington and his season with the Dolphins.
But yeah,
Especially because Rodgers is here and like Brett Favre at that point. So that would be a lot of fun. And then they got a lot of former Jets on that team now.
got Barrios. Yeah,
Barrios, Robbie Anderson, Feeney. So
Feeney. I
could
forgot
be
about
fun.
Robbie Anderson. Isn't he chosen Anderson now?
Or chosen Anderson. My apologies.
Well, this does open up the first. The Jets have 3 straight home games, rather, to get a little bit of a break. Week 13, though, they come back 1 p.m. game. I think it's their first 1 p.m. game since week 8.
Oh,
No, because that's the Giants
oh yeah,
game.
Giants. Yeah, Giants and
First
Patriots,
home
right.
1 p.m. game since week 3. Week 13 against the Falcons. Sneaky tough
4 in a
game.
row here.
Sneaky tough
4
game.
1 p.m.
That's true. But again, I mean, I guess one of them could get flexed. Probably the
Maybe
Dolphins.
Dolphins.
Yeah, I could see the Dolphins in Miami because especially those broadcasting teams. When you look at those, when you get to December, it's like, oh, we could go to Miami for a Sunday night football game. You just get an email? Is that what I just heard? Who's emailing you during our podcast, Michael? Come on. What do you
I
think?
don't know. I sincerely don't know what that was.
Unprofessional. Falcons. Sneaky tough game. I mean, I like Arthur Smith. I wrote that article for King Arthur. Although Desmond Ritter, I just they're going to be able to run the football. And as we said, teams who can win in the trenches will pose some problems for the Jets. And you look at this Falcons team; they have some playmakers. They are going to be able to run the football. We'll see what Ritter is like at QB. Their defense is pretty weak. Again, this does kind of open up a nice stretch of games here for the Jets where they should be able to stack up some W's as you head into the playoffs. What do you feel about this matchup?
You know what? Trap game. I think this has the potential to be that. Just because obviously I think the Jets are a lot better than the Falcons.
May 14th.
Schedules always May 14th. But schedules always go that way. It's not like you're going to lose to the 5 best teams, beat everyone else. You always lose some random games that you shouldn't, and you win some games that you shouldn't. So if the Jets are going to lose a surprising game on the schedule, I think there is kind of a chance this might be it. Just because of what you said. This is going to be a running football team. They've got a loaded run game. They were already a great run game last year. Now they had Bijan Robinson. And it's going to be December, that time of year where teams start running the football more. And I don't know. And I think the run defense out of the 4 phases of offense and defense is probably the biggest question mark.
Hey, they got Al
with
Woods
the Jets. Now. They did get Al Woods, but also Shelton Rankins is gone. Quentin Jefferson isn't a great run defender. Quan Alexander hasn't come back. And then there is some regression potential with the Jets defense. They were very healthy last year. We'll see how healthy they are at this point in the season. Falcons running the football, I don't know. I could see that as a potential trap game. Obviously, I think the Jets should beat them, but just compared to some of these other teams at the end of the schedule here, if there's one I had to pick that could pull off a shocking upset, this would be the one I'd pick.
I know we've fallen off on giving the uni predictions, but this seems like an all green game to me.
We did forget. What was the last one we even did? We'll just throw it in with the record at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Sure. Then week 14, hosting the Texans. Get a rookie quarterback, D'Amico Ryans from the Saleh tree. I think this is the first time Saleh will get a chance to play one of his disciples. It's going to be a fun game, but I think, as you saw in Saleh's first year, this defense takes a year, can even take 2 years to really, find its groove. And I just think that this is a matchup that the Jets, again, at home, Texans got to travel. They're a young team. They have some talent on this roster, but I think this is a game that the Jets, this is an opportunity. If the Falcons game is a trap game, I think this is an opportunity for the Jets to really have a late season blowout game heading to the last 4 games of their season. How do you feel about the matchup of Saleh taking on his former protege?
I mean, really, all 3 of these home games here in December are ones that they should win, and it'll be interesting to see where the Jets are at this point. Are they a 10-1 team that's on fire and trying to finish off the 1 seed, or did they get off to a rough start? They're trying to rebound and get back on track for the playoffs or the division. We'll see where they are, but either way, I think they'll be heavily favored in those 3 games, and you'd like to see them sweep that set because that's what the Packers and Aaron Rodgers had always done throughout his career, is win those games at home that they should win. His home record has always been pristine. He's cleaned up in the games that he's supposed to win. So I'd like to see the Jets be that team at this point, because the Jets don't win the games that they supposedly should win as often as they should. And they don't really blow teams out either. There are very few blowout wins for the Jets over the past decade. I'd like to see some blowouts out of these last few.
Then we go.
We're sounding very cocky here,
I know.
but I think it's
17-0 is my official prediction.
Yeah.
Week 15 at Miami. We kind of touched on Miami a little bit already, but I will say that is one of the things I always look at on the schedule is like, when do we get to go to Miami? Because I love when the Jets play them in December, because it's a nice break from all the cold, snowy, rainy games the Jets have to play. And then also, if you play Miami in September, you have to deal with that humidity. December 17th, it's a nice time. It's a nice time of year to play Miami.
When was the last time they played them in September? It's been a while.
Jeez, maybe. Right? I mean, when Revis tore his ACL, that was in September, I think. But that was like 2012.
So not since that, I don't think, right?
I have to really think about it. I think
Josh McCown maybe was in London. That was early.
Was McCown, or was that October? When he threw
October,
that pick 6?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I forget. If we really look through it, we could find it. But I like that they're playing him week 15 in Miami. And as I said, I think that is, out of all the games that could maybe get flexed into prime time, I think that's the one that really jumps out to me as one that might get flexed to Sunday Night Football. Last home game of the year, week 16, hosting the Commanders on Christmas Eve. This was one of the games that I kind of wanted early in the season because, like you said, you kind of wanted some early games or some easier games early on, but Commanders aren't necessarily an easy game. But when Sam Howell is your starting quarterback and we're sitting here in May and we have no idea what he looks like, this is contrary to their logo, this is a game that you look, actually with their logo, this is a game you look at on the schedule as a W. Would you agree with me? I mean, good offensive line, good running game, but I mean, come on. Sam Howell.
I like that transition.
I fucked it up a little bit. It was a little wordy.
But it was solid. I got what you meant. I was wondering where you were going with it, and I was like, I like that.
That's a little W
so
joke, yeah.
It was solid. But, I mean, the Commanders' defense was good last year. They were one of those Jets kind of teams throughout the year where they were having all these low-scoring games that they couldn't win, top-ranked defense but couldn't score. But and they do fit the bill of that kind of team we talked about. Like, they have a pass rush that could make noise against this Jets offensive line. But other than the pass rush, there's not a lot that I like about their team. Obviously, Terry McLaurin against Sauce is going to be great to watch. And they do have some other good weapons. Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson had a great rookie season. So there's some stuff there that I like on Washington. But it all comes down to quarterback. And again, May 14th, we said it a bunch of times.
It's true.
Maybe Sam Howell will be amazing.
But the
But
thing,
as of right now, I don't expect that.
completely contradicting what I was going to say earlier, a good reason to maybe play this team later on in the season is I think they're starting Sam Howell because they're like, okay, either he's good and he's our future, but most likely he probably isn't. There's a great quarterback class. You get to play a team that is maybe eyeing the draft, maybe not, we'll see, but they're in a tough division. Expectations aren't too high for this team. They are a tough team, but week 16, eyeing the quarterback class at home, Christmas Eve, this seems like a game that the Jets should also win, at least on paper. But they got a short week heading into week 17. Have to go to Cleveland for Thursday Night Football. They've had some tough games, especially on Thursday Night Football at Cleveland. I just think of Isaiah Correll's butt wipe. But the Watson-Rodgers matchup, I like this. I think that the Browns should be better than they were last year. This is maybe two teams battling for a playoff spot or, for seeding, whatnot. But this is an important game in December, regardless if the Jets have, either, unless the Jets are completely out of it, which I don't think will be the case, but either the Jets are playing Cleveland to fight for a playoff spot, playing Cleveland to fight for seeding. There was another one, but I completely forgot. Whatever. But on Thursday Night Football at Cleveland, it'll come back to me in a second. At Cleveland, what do you think about this matchup? Rodgers, Watson, Amazon Prime, the only
Elijah Moore
revenge game. Talk for a second, and so I can think about what point I was going to make.
I mean, I'm interested to see what Cleveland does because on paper they are a very good team. I mean, the O-line is stacked, the D-line is stacked. They got weapons, and they have a quarterback who, before this past season, or I guess before 2 seasons ago, was considered one of the best centerpieces to have in the league. But all the off-field stuff happened. He came back last year, and he was pretty bad in the short stretch that he played. So if he can bounce back, Watson, and be who he was in Houston, I mean, Cleveland could easily win that division. We'll see where they are at this point in the season. But this easily could be a very tough game.
Yeah, and a short week on the road. It like you said, it could be tough. And these AFC matchups, very important for seeding. Again, Cleveland is a sneaky good team. We'll see. May 14th to December 28th. There's a lot of time for stuff to happen. Who knows how either of these teams look. But at this point of the season, I like having the late Thursday Night Football game. That can't be flexed out either, right? So,
no, Thursday can't be moved.
No,
right?
yeah, I don't think so. So, obviously, the Jets had some pretty good luck last year playing Cleveland. Should be a different team different quarterbacks for both teams. Completely different matchup, but maybe the Jets can carry over some of that magic that they had last year with that giant fucking elf at midfield. Week 18 at New England, closing the season out. Again, it's
quick side note. Did you see the competition of the Browns dog pound logos? I don't know if you saw that.
No, what happened?
They had a vote of fan made logos for the dog pound, like the dog logo.
Okay.
That they usually have. There were some good candidates in there. You'd have to look at it.
It's this is an audio medium, so it's kind of hard to.
Oh, there are some good logos.
Okay, well, let me look it up. All right, you're hyping it up.
They're Cleveland Browns.
What do I look
dogs.
up? What do I look up? Cleveland
Browns dog pound logo competition.
Dog pound logo competition.
Some of them weren't very good. They were a little too cartoony, but I like some of them. They just had aggressive elements to them that I thought were fitting to the Browns' identity.
Okay, I see.
I thought you have some good opinions on it. Any that jump out?
I mean, they're all dogs, so I don't really know how to describe. They're all
orange
dogs with
trying
stripes.
To tell me to explain it. That's all I could say. It's a Browns colored dog.
I mean, I think I like this guy on the top right. Again, it's just hard.
They're all
to
better
describe.
than the elf.
The one he kind of looks like Darth Vader. I don't really know how to describe it. He looks kind of scary. He has I like this one, Michael. Michael can see.
I think that's the one I liked.
You like this one? Can you see it?
That's the one I like.
Yeah, I like that one. I'd go with that one.
On board with.
It's pretty funny. All right, closing out the season at New England. I really hope this is a Zach Wilson game, and because the Jets are resting their starters, I really hope that the Jets can punch their ticket to the playoffs. Hopefully, with that Cleveland game, I think that is, regardless of what's happened, I think that is going to be an important game. No matter if the Jets are, best case scenario of won 13 games, 14 games, whatever. That Cleveland game is still going to be crucial when it comes to tiebreakers. But Week 18, At that point, the seeding normally is pretty locked up. Maybe not. Who knows? But I would love to see the Jets have a game where they get to go into New England and play their backups because they've already locked up their seeding. I don't. When was the last time the Jets won in New England? The playoff game.
Yeah, that was the last
So then
one.
before that, it would have been Favre. So yeah, okay. Last time the Jets won a regular season game in New England, it was with a former Packers Hall of Fame quarterback. Let's see if they can repeat history. So with that said, Michael,
Poetic.
we've ran through all 17 games. They're all 18 weeks. Pretty nice schedule, I would say. I mean, the first 6 games are obviously tough, but I like that the Jets get their chance to show the rest of the league what they're about. And I think that because Rodgers has familiarity in the system, because the defense is returning a lot of their starters. I don't know if you saw this. Mina Kimes had a great tweet. I'm gonna butcher the exact points, but she was basically talking about how defenses regress every year, and it's kind of hard to predict. But one of the main variables you can look at on whether or not a defense is going to regress is how much they rely on turnovers, because a lot of turnovers can be very random, tip balls, fumbles that just
Yeah.
slip out. And the Jets were, I think, the best team in terms of defensive performance that didn't rely on turnovers. The Jets did not have very good
Right.
turnover luck last year. And
Yeah,
so that
I did see that.
and
Yeah.
so that typically is a good sign on a defense being able to maintain their success from year to year. So that's a great sign. I think that's a really interesting point, especially if the Jets are able to finally get some turnovers. So with that, in mind, and having Rodgers and how many games the Jets won last year with basically no quarterback under center, early games, I don't really bother me. I look at it more as an opportunity for the Jets to prove themselves, and then after the bye, there's a lot of winnable games, some sneaky games, some tough primetime games. But all in all, Michael, I mean, at minimum, I see 10 wins at minimum, and I think, if I really want to get into my optimistic bag, I might predict 13. I don't, I mean, how are you feeling when you look at it? Again, it's May 14th. None of this shit matters, but we're just, making content here. Look at the schedule, Michael. Does it change anything the way that it's? I mean, we already knew these opponents. We already knew that Rodgers is going to be the Jets quarterback. But now that you see it, see who they're going to play, when they're going to play them, the advantages and disadvantages of the schedule, I would say all in all, this is a good schedule for the Jets. Despite the tough first few weeks, they get a chance to make up ground towards the end of the season to make that late season playoff push. They don't have a lot of travel. They have that rest differential. A lot of fun primetime games. I think this is a good schedule. I think this is what all you really could have asked for outside of maybe having one easier game in the first few weeks of the season. But maybe that's week 3 against the Patriots.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's anything about the schedule that changes the way I felt about the team before it came out. We knew who they were playing. It's just the order. I feel like a lot of people, or maybe some people, aren't aware that the opponents are known prior to the schedule, and then they just
Who is
react
listening
to
to
it when the
this
schedule comes
podcast that
out.
doesn't know the Jets?
No one
opponent?
who listens to this podcast.
Yeah, come on. We just broke
I'm not
down the
talking about
uniform predictions for each week. I mean,
no, if you're listening to this podcast, you are a psycho just like us.
the diehards.
And I mean that in the nicest way. I'm talking about maybe some really casual fans
we might get
who aren't cultured enough to listen to Cool Your Jets.
I will say
podcast.
now with Rodgers, you're going to imagine. I remember this when I was a kid. There's a big swath of bandwagon Jets fans coming in, and if you're going to choose a new team, you got to find a new podcast to try to learn as much about your team. So maybe we do have some new Jets fans in here. So if you are a new Jets fan, welcome. I mean,
we just called you psycho.
We did just call you a psycho, but I'll always have respect for the. Did you see those tweets going around this week about how loyal are you? And then it was just like a photo of like the butt fumble. Think about all the terrible Jets moments that we've stuck with them. I mean, even in this podcast, we've done way more.
I just put up that graphic of the Chicago receivers in 2018. That's a classic.
That's an infamous graphic right there. Adam Gase, press conferences. I'm trying to think. What are some of the? I think, was there a moment ever in the last
Bryce
10
Petty
years?
starts in 2017.
Since being a Jets fan, was there one moment that you look at and you think that you may have had the thought of like, you know what, I don't like football anymore. I'm not gonna keep watching this team. Is there one moment? Because it's got to be worth it now that Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback.
That's a great question. I definitely have had those. I'm just trying to pinpoint it. I think that 2019 opener really bothered me, which maybe didn't make sense, but
that's true.
Really
there was some hype.
There was a lot of hype going to that season, and after that game, I was like, that was just so deflating. And then when he got, or Darnold, it was announced he had mono. I was like, how is this even real?
That's true.
Like, this is so unfair.
I think
I would maybe go with that.
I'm trying to think. There's
Not
got to
that I was
be.
seriously
Yeah,
considering retiring, because we just started this podcast,
that's true.
but those are the thoughts that you have.
I do remember watching that Zach Wilson debut, and I lost my voice, which I guess has happened. Now that I think about it, a lot of Jets games I've lost my voice at, but this one I had lost my voice before, so I went to the game and I couldn't say anything, so I had to watch the game completely silent, which was an interesting experience. Got to pay attention to the surround sounds, hear the Jets Patriots fans fight each other, and it was a fun experience for all of 10 minutes. But sitting there, not being able to talk, feeling like shit, and then watching the Jets' young, bright quarterback do exactly what the last Jets' bright young quarterback did at the last game I had been to. I never considered not being a Jets fan, but on that train ride home with all those Pats fans blasting Sweet Caroline out of their boombox, and just I'm sitting there
Which
looking
which
up.
now that you bring that up, it's funny because when the Jets beat the Dolphins, they played the same song and we were
Oh, I
singing
know,
it.
yes, but it was
So
different. It was
there's
different.
some poetry there.
It was different. I couldn't say anything, so I couldn't even. I mean, probably for the better, I couldn't even say anything to these stupid Pats fans. But they were blasting "Sweet Caroline," and I was looking out the window at the Jersey swamps. I couldn't. I felt like shit, and I just was like, "Why do I do this? Why am I putting?" I just dropped like $200 on these tickets. I don't know. That was. I think that was maybe not the lowest point, but that was the point where I really was just like, "What is the point of all this?" We just hired Robert Saleh. All the optimism of like they got this young quarterback, this is the head coach we wanted, all this optimism, and then to have it blow up like that, it really felt like a real low. But 2 years later, sitting here with Aaron Rodgers, the Jets quarterback, and all the optimism and all the buzz the Jets are getting this past week, feels pretty worth it. Now we'll see. Of course, the Jets will probably blow it all up in our face and break our hearts. But for now, on May 14th, feels pretty damn good to be a Jets fan.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing you mentioned there, about riding the train back from a game, I did that for the first time this year for a couple games because I went up and visited when you were living in the city. I'd never taken a train to a game before, and those views on the train of the Jersey swamps are not fun when you lose a game. It really adds to your depression. So I don't know. That's just a point that came because I remember they lost that Ravens game,
Yeah.
and I was looking at that. I was like, man, this is.
Well,
And you're just on that crowded train. There's a bunch of Ravens fans on there.
I know, and then
I
you
remember
always
they were
you always
talking
hear the
about,
opposing team's fans talk about the game from their perspective, and then you'll hear them throw in some random snide at the Jets roster, and just oh
yeah,
god,
like I remember there were Ravens fans talking about, like, I thought Isaiah Likely had a great debut. We got to get him more targets. I mean, I know it was the Jets, but we should have
yeah,
beat
it's
him
always something
more.
like that. You're like,
Nice
all right,
targets.
asshole.
Like, I'll take the win, but we should have won by more. And it's like 24-6.
Oh my god. All right. Well, hopefully,
So good
which
memories.
which
These memories are important because when you have a season like the one we hopefully have, it's what makes it more fun.
which
Just looking back on that.
looking at this, which games are you thinking about going to?
Well, I think you and I are already kind of making tentative plans to go to that Raiders game. We'll see how it plays out. Definitely week one. I think we both want to go.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I'm going to be there. I just
I'll
haven't
be
gotten
there.
tickets yet, so that's why I speak about it hypothetically. But I will be there. Other than that, I mean, just want to play by ear, see how it goes. But I'd love to see that Chiefs game. Giants is a rare opportunity. You only get every 4 years. I guess now it could happen in 2 years depending on the standings, but it doesn't happen a lot. That could be a fun one to go to. And I was telling you this before we recorded, but I like those December home games against the Falcons, Texans, and Commanders. I want to see the
Really?
Jets go out there in front of a full packed stadium, 100% Jets
I
fans,
got bad news
not
for
the
you.
Bills. There's what's the bad news?
A December 24th game against the Commanders is not going to be a full house, despite how good the Jets might be. In the rain,
I,
Christmas Eve.
I'm not. I take that one out. The
Okay.
Falcons and the Texans is more what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Like, Bills, there will be a bunch of Bills fans. Chiefs travel well. There will be a lot of Eagles fans. But those two games, like, there's not going to be any Falcons fans or Texans fans
That's
at
true.
this game. Maybe seven or eight of them. But 100%, like, we've never had that.
But
Except
it's
maybe
in
like the
December, though.
first season
That's a good point. I
of
wish one of
MetLife.
those games was earlier on in the season when it's better weather
People
because
will go. They better go.
tickets are
Lambeau Field is
expensive.
filled every
I
week.
got it. Let's just be
Buffalo's
honest.
filled.
Would you rather for free? Well, I guess depending on you pay for
I'm
cable or
going for
Sunday
free.
ticket. But okay, no, I'm saying this. Would you rather for relatively free be at home in the comfort of your house watching the game on TV with all the angles, all the analysis? You don't have to do the whole trek out to MetLife. I'm just saying this is the mentality of a lot of fans. I'm not saying in December, or do you want to go out to the game in the rain, risk watching the Jets lose? I mean, once you get to December, I do get why some Jets fans are like, all right, I agree with you. I like the idea of
Well, this is why we don't have as much of a home field advantage as other
that's
teams.
true. I wish one of those games was earlier on in the season because, like you said, no away fans traveling. You got a packed Jets house. That would be fun. But I think that week 3 game against the Pats, I mean, I know there are a lot of Patriots fans that live in the city, and I guess it's early enough in the season where maybe their season hasn't gone up in flames yet, but I think that's the game where you're really going to get a big, you know, Jets fan, Jets. I
I
just
mean,
don't.
week 1 will be full. There will just be a good amount of Bills fans.
Right. No, I think the first 4 games I think are all going to be sellouts. First 4
Yeah,
home
for sure.
games.
They're just great road fan bases.
Yeah. Yeah, damn. I really do wish maybe the Texans were earlier on in the
Chargers
season.
will be all Jets though.
That's
They
true.
don't have traveling fans.
But that's Monday night again.
Actually, that's a good one. I would throw that one in. That's
Yeah, but
fun.
again, that's tough for people. Monday night game. You're not getting out till midnight. You
Come
got
on,
work the
there's
next day.
how many people live in the New York area? Like 17 million, whatever it is. You can't
17 million. You think it's
80,000?
17? Oh, I guess in the greater area. You're saying
The metropolitan area I'm
okay,
talking
how many
about.
people
I'm gonna
live
look it up right now
Okay, you do that
because we're factual in this podcast. But
for the most part.
you can't tell me you're telling me that 80,000 people out of them can't. Yeah, for the most part, other than me trying to calculate time zones earlier.
Exactly.
We
All
get
right.
80K in the building.
What's your
It's
record
also
prediction?
23.6 million.
23.6 million. What's your record prediction?
Were
On
we
May
going to go
14th.
game by game, or should we
We
just
just did kind of
throw
go
the
game by
record out?
game, but I guess give your record and then maybe give like a brief explanation. You could run through some of the games that you think are wins or whatever.
I'm going to go 12-5. That's where I am right
12
now.
and 5. Okay.
In terms of breakdown the losses, I think there will be one trap game loss because it happens.
Yeah.
Every team. I mentioned Atlanta before. Maybe Patriots. The fact that we're considering it a trap game, they lost 12 in a row to them. But one of those games, maybe their
I
favorite.
could see the Broncos being a trap game.
Yeah, that as well. We'll see how good they are. So one surprising loss, and then I think 4 losses out of some of these tough games. Split the Bills, split the Dolphins, maybe, and then 2 out of the say Cowboys, Chiefs, Eagles, and Browns, something like that.
Calculating in my head. I guess 12 makes sense. I mean, if I really want to be optimistic, I'll go 13. But I feel like I always have to go. Okay, what do I want to say, and then subtract like 1 or 2 games.
Exactly.
So I'll go 11. I'll play it conservatively, right? I think that's what is that 11 and 6 now? Yeah, 11 and 6. But this really is a team that could. There's no reason this team couldn't win 13 games. I mean, there really is no reason that they couldn't, especially what you saw with the Jets to the Bills last year, that they couldn't beat them week 1, go down to Dallas and beat Dallas. I think that's a tough game, but they could still do that. You look on paper against the Patriots, they should blow them out. Again, they've lost 12 straight, so who knows? And again with injuries, but that's a 3-0 start. It's like the Chiefs. I'm chalking that up as a loss, but again, it's like they don't scare me. They're really the only team in the schedule that I look at. I'm like, all right, they're not going to win that game. It's the Eagles, and of course, that's the game they're going to win now. But it's like Chiefs, Bills, they're scary. Chargers, they obviously have talent. Dolphins are scary, whatever. But the Jets can beat all these teams in the trenches, and they have Aaron Rodgers, and they have a top 5 defense. So with that said, I mean, I guess like you said earlier, a lot of it comes down to the Jets' own offensive line. How healthy are they able to stay? But I'll go 11 wins, which I love how that's the conservative prediction. But this is definitely a playoff team. And not only that, I think...
I know, I love that. Like, 11 wins, guys. Don't hate me.
Yeah.
I'm not a pessimist.
But I will say I think every year on the podcast, the prediction has always been around 500. So the fact...
It's always 8 or 9.
I think this is a playoff team. I think this is a team that can definitely win the division this year. This is a good shot for them to do it. In fact... I kind of want to make that my prediction, but then 11 wins seems a little light. But fuck it. I'm the optimist of this podcast. The Jets are winning the division. We're getting a home playoff game in MetLife. You going to that?
There we go.
You going to that?
I'm going to the home playoff game. It'll be $500 in the nosebleeds, but you only live once.
All right, I
You want to see
guess.
the Jets make the playoffs once,
Yeah,
I should say.
I don't think you haven't really ever. I mean, obviously you've been alive during Jets
No,
playoffs, but
I wasn't really watching in the 2009, 2010,
uh,
so pretty much I've never seen a playoff
I just remember
appearance.
my dad was a kid, and I just remember my dad beating it into me like this is not. Sorry, I shouldn't have beat. Cut that out. My dad saying to me, this is not normal. Don't get used to this. Soak this in. The Jets don't normally put themselves in this position. Like after they beaten the Chargers and made it to the AFC Championship and beating the Patriots the next year. And up until that point, the first few seasons that I'd really been watching the Jets was 2008 was the first year I really got into them. I remember some of the other games earlier, but the first 3 seasons I watched them, they were like 8-3 and Super Bowl favorites. Then they collapse. 2009, they make that Cinderella run to the AFC Championship. And then 2010, they have a great season, make it all the way to the AFC Championship and blow it. Tough endings on all 3 of those seasons, but 3 really fun seasons. So being a Jets fan was great. And then the ensuing 12 years have just been, was it 12 years? Yeah, 12 years have just been horrible. So it's fun that the Jets have a looking at a season with a Hall of Fame quarterback and all the optimism. I'm sure they'll find a way to break our hearts. But at this point, as I said, May 14th, feels pretty good to be a Jets fan. I'm excited, Michael. We have a fun offseason of podcast plan. I know we've been a little inconsistent this spring. Been wrapping up my time at Syracuse, but we have the whole summer here, Michael, to really dive into the nitty gritty, get into I think the niche of our podcast is really pick one topic and dive all the way into it. We have some podcast plan. We have some interviews that we're working on scheduling out. We'll do some film stuff, but we want to be consistent throughout the summer. That way it gives us a nice runway up until the season starts, because these next few weeks are going to be painstaking as we wait training camp to get underway. But I think at this point last year, Michael, I was in the bushes of some Arizona high school trying to find
I remember
Zach Wilson throwing to Elijah Moore. But how times have changed. Big summer up ahead for this podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. You can follow us at CYJ Pod on Twitter. You can follow Michael at Michael_Nania, myself, Ben W. Blessington. Go to JetsXFactor.com, the best place to go for Jets content. Subscribe to the Jets X Factor YouTube as well. We post all our podcasts there, as well as all the other podcasts on our network. If you're able to, please rate, review, subscribe on iTunes. It helps out the podcast a ton. With that said, Michael, last thoughts.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you said in terms of this just being a fun time right now. We'll see how the season goes, but in this moment, there's a lot of optimism. And there usually is at this time of year. Not this type of optimism, but we always find a way to contrive the optimism,
Oh, yeah.
regardless.
We listened to that 2020 pod where they played the Niners, and both of us had predicted wins.
Yeah.
I was like, God, Jesus, what were we
This
thinking?
is so disappointing. How did they not beat this team? That's like what we were saying. With all those injuries, we were supposed to win this game. But I'm enjoying this right now. We got a good 4 months until the season starts, so I'm just gonna bask in that, enjoy it for now, and hopefully, when when the season starts, it's out of our hands. Hopefully, they reward our optimism for once. But I think it'll be a fun year, and I can't wait for the podcast we'll be doing over the next few weeks and months, getting more into the nitty gritty of a lot of specific niche topics as we get ready for the year.
Yeah, the title might as well be satirical.
Not uniforms. We're going to do actual real stuff.
We're going to have some uniform pods as well. The title might as well be satirical for the podcast that are come this summer, because I imagine we're going to be, by the end of it, by August, I think we're going to be predicting 17-0. Just with every clip of Rodgers throwing in that number 8 jersey on the practice field, my excitement grows.
Do you want to think about this for a second? This is something that's become wild to me. Just now that we're at this point, and Aaron Rodgers is here, and I'm watching him and just enjoying the hype that comes with him. Why did we ever want Derek Carr?
Because I think we all kind of were worried that Rodgers was going to spurn us. And I think it felt like, okay, they instead of going all in on this season, Derek Carr, you could bring him in, and that gives you 4 to 5 years of relevancy of solid quarterback play, and you can keep building it up. With Rodgers, it's like, all right, you're going all in on this year. Granted, it sounds like he might stick around for another year or maybe 3 years. But yeah, I agree. I mean, the Jets made the right call in terms of this is the best guy we can get. This is our guy. We're going to go try to get him. If they hadn't wound up with him, we'd all be saying, why didn't we just go for Derek Carr?
Right, exactly.
But with how everything's played out, they made the right call.
Yeah, I mean, like, I was pro Carr at times. I think I was split on which one I liked. It was just exactly what you said. I think Carr was just safer, higher floor. You didn't have to go through all that drama we went through the past few months, um, leading up to this acquisition. But now that he's here, I guess I just didn't really put as much stock as I should have into just who this guy is, regardless of the Packers' success or lack of success last year. Just it is Aaron Rodgers versus Derek Carr. I don't know if I thought about that enough, but this isn't to throw away, be hindsighted here and just throw all my Derek Carr takes out the window, because there was logic to that pursuit as well. And we'll see what he does in New Orleans. But yeah, I was just thinking that now that we're here, it's like, can't believe I preferred anything else, because like the 6 primetime games and the 6 best Super Bowl
Right.
odds, all that stuff with Derek Carr, you're not getting any of that.
Yeah, how
So
much
it's just
different
now
does
that
the
we're
schedule
here,
look with Derek Carr? I guess the
probably
Raiders game is still
2 or
prime time.
3. Yeah, probably that, but maybe one other or 3 total. So
Man.
I don't know, it would be a lot different. So I was just thinking back at that.
Soak it all in, Jets fans. As my dad just says to me, kid, this is not normal. This does not normally happen. Let's soak it in. This is perfect for the podcast. We get 4 to 5 months to be absurdly optimistic, and then we got a season, hopefully a magical season, waiting us. Very excited. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a great week. I guess we got Michael and I have a meeting this week to really plan out what the schedule's like.
Staff meeting.
We have a staff meeting, but we should be back next Monday. We'll see if anything comes out this week. But plan on us being around every Monday throughout the summer. We'll see if we mix in some multi-pods a week as we get closer and closer to training camp. We'll don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, though. So for right now, we'll be back next Monday. Everybody have a great week. Go Jets.